Good evening, everyone. Hello, Dorothy.
Hi, I don't. Are we live?
I believe we are.
Oh, yeah, it just popped on. Yeah, hi everyone.
This Irish granny is still learning. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. Um, my first show, I'm so glad that Dorothy was kind enough to come on and give me a bit of support. It just basically is just getting your confidence built up, isn't it, Dorothy?
Yeah, the first couple of lives, I was extremely nervous. You get like butterflies, but after
Yes,
a while, it's just like being on the phone with
it
friends.
is. I think
Yeah.
this is what you have to do. Um, and the people obviously in the chat. Hello, Sagacious and Helen and
Hello,
JD
ladies.
and Sarah, I believe, was in earlier.
Oh yeah, she changed her name.
She did
Yeah, and
because,
JD said hello too. Said
yes.
congratulations to you. So hi
Oh,
JD. I don't know if she's still in here. Hold on. Let me see if I can tag her. No, I can't, so she's not in here.
JD will probably be in and out once we get started. Helen wasn't very well today. She thought she had
Sorry,
COVID.
Helen. Well, she said she tested negative. I see it up there, so that's good news. So you have a chest infection. Oh, there's replay crew. Hi, Sarah.
This is Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Sarah is the lady that had normally the Union Jack flag. Is that right, Sarah?
She said that she never catches the lives. She always has to watch the replays.
Yeah. hmm
Hence the new account name.
Yes, Sarah's got the Union Jack normally. Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you a wee bit about what I'm for doing on my channel. Um, it's called Irish Crime and Coffee Time. I think I'd be able to commit to doing 2 Irish crime stories a month because when you start getting into something, it does take a lot of research and it's very time consuming. And I think I should be able to do two. And then every now and then come on and just have a chat about what's happening around the tubes or just anything general. Um, and that'll be your coffee time. But really, it's nothing too formal. It's just a chat with probably a lot of people that I know from other chats. Sagacious and Dorothy obviously will help me out. I'm sure, won't you, Dorothy?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Um, it's just getting the confidence I think built up. But I'm just going to pretend that I'm just talking to you, Dorothy, like we normally do.
Right. That's all.
And
And you're amongst friends. So,
yes, yes, definitely. Yes, the Irish crime. When I was looking out for Irish crime stories, I found that there wasn't really that many channels that done them. And I listened to a lot of podcasts and I thought, right, I'm going to do a channel of my own. And even if I get 5 views or 10 views, it's still putting it out there. And when I started to look, I was amazed at how many Irish crimes, murders that I didn't even know about or haven't heard about. And my first one that I'm working on, and I hope to put out next week, is Lisa Dorian. Um, it was a young girl that is to be believed to be murdered, and her body has never been recovered, and it's still very much, in the media today, in our media in Ireland. Um, but again, it's stories, Dorothy, you probably never heard about.
Yeah, probably not, and that's why I think it's such a great idea, because those crimes don't get enough attention.
No, they don't. They definitely don't. Oh, Sarah. Sure, I'm on Facebook as Sarah Louise. I run a British gangland and documentary group, also Sarah and Amanda Global Crimes. I will post and tag your channel. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. British Gangland. I have actually seen a few YouTube channels about the gangland crimes, but I'll join that as well. And you're an admin. So, Dorothy, what are we going to be talking about tonight?
Well, I thought tonight if well, what you wanted to do, I thought, was, just a laid back conversation about victim blaming and
Yeah,
maybe mentioning a couple of different scenarios where victims were blamed for a crime that was on them, which
yeah,
is so wrong. Yeah.
yeah. And I was looking into it, and they say the psychology behind it is that people feel safe by putting the blame on the actual victim. They actually feel safer about themselves, that maybe it couldn't happen to them because they don't do this, that, or the other.
Well, and then to actually blame a victim for a crime that happens against them, um, if it's a murder, the those people aren't here to defend themselves any longer, and then the families, who are victims as well, get involved, and it can snowball into quite an ugly situation, as we have seen with, the Watts case, where, we have both families who have entered the YouTube world in defense of their loved one.
Yeah. And of course they're going to do that. And it's only natural. I mean, I have said this before that if I was in their situation and it was my daughter, I would probably end up in jail, in prison.
Well, and then we've seen even with, we all know the non-detective, let's just put it that way,
Yeah.
how he has flip-flopped all over the place, and it appears recently he is back to putting the blame on Shanann.
I find it very hard to understand, but I was listening to someone the other night and I think they've got it spot on. He's covered everything. So the last throw of the dice is using the conversations that the murderer's mother had privately with
Mhm.
one of his admins. That's all he's got. And regardless whether we like Cindy or Ronnie, they are victims too. They lost their grandchildren.
Right.
And for someone to use that private conversations is so, so wrong.
Well, and why now? Because they haven't talked to her in months, so did they run out of things to say and decided to go with this angle because that case is such a cash cow? Why now?
I think that's exactly what he's doing. He's run out. And I think 2022 is going to be this new series. I haven't watched them in months. I know you asked me today, why do you look or why do you? And I have started to look. I don't click to give him a view. but I have watched a couple of Truth Justice videos,
Yeah, I like TJ's channel.
and it's shocking. Cindy did have a relationship of sorts with an admin of his and spoke in confidence. As of yet, there's absolutely nothing that he's put out that we haven't heard before,
Right.
because Cindy has been vocal on another channel about it. So there's nothing that we don't know. But it's still a betrayal.
It is.
She is a very vulnerable person,
Uh-huh.
and obviously her family weren't aware of the of this going on many months ago. And it was her family that stepped in, blocked the number, blocked her, and changed her number.
And for good reason. I
Of
mean,
course.
yeah. I mean, just what they're doing with it now uh, proves that they made a good move by separating Cindy from speaking
Yeah.
with the admin because they knew she was up to no good, and this proves they were right.
Yeah.
She didn't have good intentions for Cindy or care about her as a grieving mother or grandmother. I bet the that admin recorded a lot of those phone calls.
Oh, I
Watch,
would think so.
we're gonna hear audio leak.
Yeah.
They completely documented everything. There's no way that that woman didn't record Cindy. And unfortunately, this is gonna be a lesson that future victims or family members are gonna have to learn that these YouTubers do not have good intentions.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Enchanted. I enjoy the accent, but the long pauses between words is giving me NC vibes. Just saying. Oh, I'm sorry. I actually know exactly what you're saying,
Here you go,
and I
sweetie.
do pause because normally I do speak. I'm Irish and I speak quite quickly, and I kind of slow my accent down. But thank you for highlighting that. I may
Yeah,
be speaking
it's
too
our
slow.
maiden it's the maiden voyage, so it's
It
time
is.
to work out the quirks.
It is. But I do get what you're saying. Um, I do. I've noticed when I've listened back to myself about some things, saying a lot. But again, look, it's all a learning curve, isn't it, Dorothy?
Mhm.
You're a pro at this now.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Oh God, you are. You can run your mouth good.
Well, I've always been able to run my mouth.
Hello, Adam Apple and JD. We said
Hi,
hello
guys.
earlier.
Hi, guys.
Enchanted.
Hi, Enchanted. Hi, Adam.
And I hope I
You know
haven't missed anyone. But
you
thank you,
know,
everyone, being here.
I just wanted to point out that this is not gonna be a watch video because
No.
there are other situations that Juror and I had discussed. Like, I had
Yes.
brought up the Jennifer and Joseph Rosenbaum, case,
Yes.
and I don't know if you guys watched that trial, but they were both convicted. Um, one of the foster daughters that they were supposed to keep safe while the biological mother, got her life together, ended up both of them were severely abused, but one of them, the younger one, ended up dead. And it was at the hands of primarily the wife, but the husband didn't stop it, didn't reach out for help or anything. And I don't know if you guys watched the court case, but it was absolutely despicable
Yeah.
when this man's father, so Joseph Rosenbaum, who's the husband of, the wife who primarily abused and killed the girl, his father got up as a victim statement and basically said, "You remember the words better, Juror. Tell them exactly what he said to the court."
He got up and he stood behind his daughter, or no, his son.
Right.
And he basically just said, my son wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her pointing at the biological mother.
Right. that if she had never started taking
Uh-huh.
drugs and that her children weren't taken away, that his son would have never been convicted for, basically child abuse
Yeah,
and murder. Yeah, his sentence wasn't quite as harsh as the wife, but he did bear some of the
of
responsibility
course.
because he didn't stop it.
He got 30 years. And
Mhm.
for the judge even to allow him, he stood behind his son. And it was like, you know, my son's a good boy. My son is a good boy. And he's only here because of her. If she hadn't taken drugs, and it was along those lines.
So victim, because
Oh
she
my
is a
God.
victim, her daughter died,
Yeah,
and the father actually had the gall to get up in court and blame the biological mother for the crime even happening.
yeah,
And the weird thing was Jennifer targeted, um, those children. She wanted those children in her custody because she knew the biological mother from their teenage years. They were in a group home together,
yeah,
going through foster care, so they had some, um, times where they had been in the same residential home. Well, Jennifer was very jealous of the biological mother. She's a very beautiful, girl, and she had even made statements to some of her neighbors that, "Huh, I have her children now." Like, in a spiteful way.
that's
She
right.
wanted those kids to stick it to the biological mother, basically, like, "Look, I'm doing well in my life, and I have your kids." So, it was a very sick reason why she even took those kids. She resented them, and she didn't like the biological mother. She was very jealous of her.
That was heartbreaking. There was two little girls. The older girl managed to get away without much abuse, but she went for the younger girl.
Yep.
She had a broken arm, which she had been brought to the hospital,
Broken
and
leg. She had a
a
cast on
broken
her
leg.
leg
Oh my goodness, that was right. She lost her hair because of stress. This is
and
stress
malnourishment.
too.
She wasn't feeding her.
Yeah.
Malnourishment. She lost a lot of weight. She was very healthy looking when she
Oh
was
yeah.
brought to Jennifer and Joseph's home. By the time, she was murdered, she looked very sick, and I mean, she had broken bones, healing fractures for, broken bones that they never even got treatment for. These poor girls were abused, but she primarily targeted the younger one with the most severe abuse.
She was. She really was.
Yeah.
It was shocking, and her own mother, her biological mother, even before the child was killed, she had noticed a big, big change in the looks of the child and the
Well, and that
appearance.
was Jennifer stopped posting, pictures or stopped sharing pictures of the children with the biological mother. At first, she was sharing a lot of information, pictures, letting her, communicate a lot, and it basically came to a screeching halt,
Yeah.
once the children started looking sickly.
Oh, it was awful. And
Yeah,
I think again the blame has been put on the bio mother
yep,
because the bio mother had lost not permanent custody. This was only meant to be temporary till she got herself together.
right.
And again, who are we to judge anyone? She was never abusive to her children, and she had her grandmother who stepped in, but it did get a bit much.
Well,
And
the
she
grandmother
trusted.
couldn't keep up with them.
No,
Yeah, yeah, they were young and rambunctious, active, and it
of
was just too
course.
much for the grandmother, yeah. Now,
And
mind you, Jennifer worked in the DA's office, didn't
she
she?
did.
She wanted to go to law school.
Hmm.
So, outward appearance, everybody just thought, "Oh, what a wonderful thing. Jennifer wants to take care of these little girls while she knows the mom could have time to get her life together." And, it was nothing like that. So, you could never judge a book by its cover because she looked like she was doing so well and had her shit together. And at the end of the day, she was an abuser. And even
Yeah.
of her husband, she ruled that house with an iron fist. He didn't dare go against his wife.
No, he didn't. He seemed to be quite, like a follower,
Yep.
and really didn't seem to be. He was a prison guard, I believe,
Yes.
but he was aware. He had to be aware of the abuse that was going on in that home.
Oh,
And for
well, yeah, remember
yeah,
he was rubbing, on the bruises, like
Yes.
an ointment, skin ointment, so he was very well aware. The little girl's back, I mean, of course, when there's child abuse, it's usually on the torso where you're covered up with a shirt. They try not
Yeah.
to abusers try not to leave bruises in visible areas, and that's what Jennifer did, and he was rubbing, like, Bengay and stuff on the bruises on the kids' backs and torso. It was just very sad. So he was well aware of it.
And yeah, Helen, the evil stepmother of fairy tales is very real. It definitely is. And when we knew we were going to be doing this, I looked up, like the psychology, not that I know anything about psychology, but they say that over empathizing with the perp, someone that they think is a great person, like Christopher Watts, like Jennifer Rosenberg, brilliant people, normal people, um, they're focusing on their achievements rather than their crimes. And that is true. They're focusing on why all the good things that they've done, like even her own family and his father. It's actually shocking.
Well, even her family, I mean, her mother got up and she seemed a little affected that the little girl was gone, but their main priority was Jennifer and Joseph. Um, I'm sorry, but I love my son, but if he murdered a little girl, oh, all bets would be off. My priority would be the child, but, I guess that's their kid. I
Yeah,
mean, we've seen mothers who, and we can use Cindy Watts as an example,
yeah.
who still love their child very, very much, which I get that, but you can't put them up on a pedestal like they did nothing wrong. I mean,
No,
there's some sense of avoidance of what really happened, and they're not dealing with the crime they committed.
maybe that was maybe that's well, I think actually it's because that if they accept that, they have to accept
Yeah,
probably the worst thing that you could possibly even think about is that your child
was capable.
was capable of
Yeah,
murdering their own children or their
right.
foster child. Where
And
do
we
you
saw
think?
it with Scott Peterson too, his
Yeah,
parents. I mean, his mom is dead now, but it's too bad she died and she still felt like he was wrongly convicted. I feel like Scott Peterson did that. There was nobody else who
yes,
would. Yeah. I mean, he wanted a new life, and, but his parents did the same thing. They
they
would
did.
not accept.
No, they wouldn't. And I, I'm not even sure how I would feel. I, oh, I think if my son admitted to it many times and he was the type of personality that Chris Watts had, I think I would have to believe him, even though it would hurt me and nearly kill me. I think I would have to believe him.
Yeah. Well, he confessed. I mean, come on. Chris Watson's confessed how many times?
Oh, at least three.
Yeah. Scott Peterson has never taken responsibility. So, I guess you can kind of understand where his parents might still believe that there's a chance it wasn't him, but for the Watts case, like, he's already owned it. He
Yes,
confessed.
but for some reason, it's like getting a lawyer to get this 35C at that time. This was never going to go anywhere. He knew that he wasn't going to go to court. He didn't want to go back to Colorado.
Oh, no. He hated Colorado, and he would have to sit there, through the whole process
Yeah.
in Colorado.
And for them to do that, they have to believe that their son didn't do this. And maybe someday they will come to terms with it. I don't know. But it's not a good look whatever way you look at it, moving, coming on social media and speaking out about it. It's definitely not.
Well, especially when you are speaking behind the scenes with people associated with that channel, they're not they're never gonna have good intentions for you. They're gonna exploit and try to use whatever you're talking about as content because at the end of the day, it's all about what they can do on YouTube to what? Make money.
Yeah,
That's all
that's
he cares
exactly
about.
what it is.
Yeah.
But then, where's people's morals gone? Do we not have morals, empathy, compassion?
Well, you know what I find perplexing is that people actually think they know who Shanann was based off her Facebook videos, and people she was selling a product. It was all marketing. We don't really even know the real Shanann. That was all for Thrive.
Yeah, and Chanta, you're right. Sometimes we only accept what our mind and heart can withstand.
Mm,
Self-preservation of their own sanity and peace with the parents of murders. Yeah, yeah. Maybe they can't let their mind go there because
well,
if they do, they'll lose their own sanity.
and if they accept that to be the truth, apparent, somehow I bet that I could imagine if I were in her shoes, that somehow I would feel like I didn't raise my child properly, or I would feel some responsibility maybe. I don't know, maybe she feels that way. But Jerry, you mentioned a good case about,
I did.
the college
Yes,
situation. Explain that one because that's
yes.
another
This is very
situation.
interesting. And
Very
I actually followed this back in the day. It's an American case and it's the Stanford rape case. Brock Turner. Has anyone heard of that one in chat? Um, it is attempted rape of a female student. She was at
attempted or was it actual it was sexual assault, wasn't it? It wasn't attempted.
right there. He was charged with 3 felonies,
Uh-huh.
one of them being assault with intent to commit rape,
Uh-huh.
and the two others was using a instrument on
Oh,
a unconscious person, and the next one was something similar to that. They had been at a house party. They were at uni. There was alcohol taken, and the young girl felt sick, and she left the house party, went down to where, like, the rubbish bins, the skips were, and obviously collapsed and was lying down beside the bins, the trash. And Brock Turner came upon her and attempted to rape her and sexually assault her. Two other students came upon him.
well, he was charged with 2 rape
Three,
charges, 2 felony assault, and then an attempted rape.
yes, three
Yeah.
felonies.
Yeah, yeah.
The two students chased him and caught him. And when it went to trial, the judge in the case, I mean, the maximum he could have got was 14 years. And the judge in the case gave him 6 months in county jail. He stated that a harsher sentence would have a severe impact on Turner, a star swimmer who could have made it to the Olympics, instead of calling him what he really was, a rapist.
Right.
2 letters were made public, one from the victim, where she provided a harrowing, detailed account of her assault in January 2015 and the struggle trying to survive it, telling
Oh,
Turner he
I
destroyed
have
her
the
life.
letter pulled up. Is there any way you could let me share my screen?
Oh, yep.
And then you could read this. I'm gonna run and grab my coffee. That way you could
Oh,
read exactly what the father wrote and how he worded this to the judge.
yes.
It's unbelievable. There we go. Hold on, I'm gonna pull it right up, and then I'll be right back.
Okay.
You can see my
That's,
screen?
I do see your screen.
I'm gonna blow it up. That's the part where they really want you to pay. That's what he wrote to the judge about his son, the father of the boy who raped the girl. All right, go ahead, girl. I'll be right back. I'm going to
Why
get
can
my
I
coffee.
not see that?
You can't see
That's,
it?
oh, add to stream. Ah, yes, find it.
There you go.
Okay, this was the letter. The second letter was from Turner's father, Dan, and I'm just going to read a wee bit. And this is where we bring in victim blaming. I'll just make this bigger. This old Irish granny's eyes. Hello, the salty one. Thank you for being here tonight. This is from Brock Turner's father to the judge. I am writing this letter to tell you about my son Brock and the person that I know he is. First of all, let me say that Brock is absolutely devastated by the events of January the 17th and 18th of 2015. He would do anything to turn back the hands of time and have that night to do all over again. In many one-on-one conversations with Brock since that day, I can tell you that he is truly sorry for what occurred that night and for all the pain and suffering that is caused for all those involved and impacted by that night. He has expressed true remorse for his actions that night. Living under the same roof with Brock since this incident, I can tell you firsthand the devastating impact that it has had on my son. Right. Before I elaborate more, I would like to share some memories of my son that demonstrate the quality of his character. Now, where in any of that
Hold on, I'm coming,
was there
Juror.
any mention of the victim? They're talking about how he's devastated.
Right,
They're talking, he's saying how his son has suffered the pain, how it's impacted him.
right,
In that first paragraph, there has been absolutely no mention of the victim, Dorothy. Not one.
right. And then if you look at this, the part that's not highlighted, he's talking about how his son is so very gentle and quiet. No, you're missing something, sir. Your son was capable of coming upon an unconscious girl and violating her.
Yeah,
So obviously you missed something. And the fact that this father can't take responsibility and then talk about what impact his son's actions had on that young lady, there's no mention of it.
not one. Not one thing is mentioned about that young girl
Nope.
and the assault that she went through that will never leave her, how it's impacted her.
And he got away with no jail time.
He was sentenced to 6 months county jail. Now, when these two letters came out, obviously there was uproar. But the victim, or survivor, I should say, remembers that the headlines following the case, and this is what she remembers the headers being All American swimmer and the victim as an unconscious, intoxicated woman. She said she got 10 syllables, nothing more than that. She was lost as a survivor in all this. She got 10 syllables. And she was described as unconscious, intoxicated.
Yeah,
And he was described
as the
as
All-American.
the All American boy swimmer.
Well,
What does
and
that
then
matter?
this is the letter in its closing. So this part is how it affected Brock's life. So you want to read that,
Yeah,
Juror? Can you see it good?
yep, I will. And yes, Helen, the devastating impact. He means the consequences of behaving like a predator. Yeah,
So he did have to do 6 months of jail time.
I believe so.
Okay,
Now,
because I saw a headline that said he evaded any jail time.
oh, well, he maybe could.
Well, we'll see after the letter. I'll
Yeah,
look because even if it was 6 months, that's a slap on the wrist
yeah.
for what he did.
He should have got up to 14 years.
Yeah.
And replay crew, you're right. Most abusers, predators, never own accountability.
Nope.
They pass on the reason it happened. She done this, she done that, or he done this and he done that, pushed me to it. You know, like really? Right.
And I'm
As it,
telling you,
yeah,
without his parents holding him accountable or somebody holding him accountable, he may repeat this again in his life and end up in deeper trouble if they don't step in and
yeah,
recognize that this young man has a fucking problem. This isn't
yeah.
okay. Yeah, sorry I swore on your show.
Nope,
The
swear away, Dorothy. Look,
sorry.
this show, there'll be many a truth bomb or a swear bomb when you read this. As it stands now, Brock's life has been deeply altered forever. Now, I'm sure this is starting to sound familiar when you think of other parents, but anyway, by the events of January the 17th and 18th, he will never be his happy go lucky self with that easy-going personality and welcoming smile. His every waking minute he is consumed with worry, anxiety, fear, and depression, as I'm sure the survivor is.
Right.
You can see it in his face, the way he walks, his weakened voice, his lack of appetite. Now listen to that. Brock always enjoyed certain types of food and is a very good cook himself. I was very excited. I was always excited to buy him a big ribeye steak to grill or get his favourite snack for him. What has this got to do with anything?
He violated
Oh my goodness, I know.
an unconscious woman. And this is what the father or the parent, is this the mother too? I don't know if they did this together, but this is what they're talking about. It's
Yeah,
so weird and unself-aware. You just can't even wrap your mind around it. That they're not talking about the young lady at all and
no,
how he regrets.
yeah,
He has remorse. None of that.
he's talking about pretzels, chips.
Yeah.
Now he only eats food to exist. These verdicts have broken and shattered him and our family in so many ways. His life will never be the one that he dreamed about and worked so hard to achieve. That is a steep price to pay for 20 minutes of action out of his 20 plus years of life. 20 minutes of action, Dorothy.
Mm.
The
It only takes
fact,
1
oh my
minute of
God.
action. Think about it. A pull of a trigger of a gun. Some people end up in on death row, right?
Yeah,
By one moment. 20 minutes, you could do a lot of damage, and he did.
yeah, you did. The fact that he now has to register as a sexual offender
Oh,
for the rest of
boo-hoo,
his life
boo-hoo.
forever alters where he can live, visit, work, and how he will be able to interact with people and organisations. What I know as his father is that incarceration is not the appropriate punishment for Brock. He has no prior criminal history and has never been violent to anyone, including his actions on the night of January 17th. He was
So
never violent.
right,
He's saying that his son was not violent to this
by
girl.
right, by violating her with an object. That's not violence. That's violence.
Brock
Unbelievable.
can, oh my, I know.
Let me go up here. Okay.
He actually, by having people like Brock, oh yeah, Brock can do so many positive things as a contributor to society and is totally committed to educating other college age students about the dangers of alcohol consumption and sexual promiscuity. Get my word,
Acuity.
promiscuity.
promiscuity, and this wasn't a case of sexual
No.
promiscuity. That's like somebody who is sleeping around, but with willing people. This is a case of him being a rapist, a predator.
Yeah.
So that's really what it comes down to. The alcohol consumption, yeah, somewhat that contributed, but he came upon an unconscious girl and violated her. So it's not
Yeah.
sexual promiscuity. That's not what
So
that is.
no, of course it's not. The girl was unconscious,
Yeah.
and he attacked her.
Mhm.
By having people like Brock educate others on college campuses, that would be a boy to be having around the campus, wouldn't it?
Right.
Is how society can begin to break the cycle of binge drinking and its unfortunate results. Probation is the best answer for Brock in this situation and allows him to give back to society in a positive way. So, where in any of that is anything about the victim?
Or a father holding his son accountable
Yeah.
or saying that the son has remorse. It's not about that. It's about how his crime affected his life. And there's no mention of the victim. Basically, that he just had a sexual experience and alcohol contributed. And he basically didn't do anything. That's what the father's pretty much explaining. It's really disgusting. But this
That's
is,
shocking.
could you imagine a victim having to read this?
I think in later, just the last couple of years, she has actually come out and I don't want to say her name, but done a book about her story because it caused so much uproar. His father's letter
Right.
blaming the victim, and like his son wasn't violent that night. She shouldn't really have got drunk. They shouldn't have parties. Where's accountability for his son? His career, he knew he wouldn't have a career. He's a sex offender. It's shocking.
It really is. Wait, I'm trying to see if he got prison time. It says he may have been able to get out of prison time, but in my criminal justice 101 textbook, Brock Turner is the definition of rape. Yep. So maybe he did have to sit in the county jail during some of the proceedings, but he never got sentenced to prison time.
Hmm.
Yeah, it says little to no time in jail or prison. Can you believe that? Which is very common. It says with college athletes convicted of sexual offenses, because this isn't the first time this has happened on campuses. And this is Stanford. It's an Ivy League college.
Yeah. Yeah.
These kids are smart. Brock knew better than to touch that girl while she was unconscious. And thank God for other students coming upon this and stopping him. God knows the girl probably wouldn't even have remembered if those 2 students didn't run him off, right?
No. She would have known something happened.
Well, yeah, she probably would've, yeah. I mean, our bodies know.
I mean, of course they know. As women,
Yeah,
we know.
yeah.
And actually, what his father done was made it 1,000 times worse for him
Mhm.
because if his father hadn't wrote that letter and asked for leniency, it wouldn't have got out to national media and outrage. He would have maybe just slipped on through and nobody mentioned it. So it's actually his father at fault as well.
Right.
But for him to think that his own son, he won't accept that his son is a rapist.
And this all happened behind a dumpster.
Yep.
So, there's a good chance that she had passed out and he dragged her behind it. I mean, do they even know how she ended up behind the dumpster?
She probably was trying to get home and staggered home and got lost. and just maybe fell down and that was it. And that there is victim blaming and shaming at its best, really.
Really, yeah.
Yeah. But how many cases is there, Dorothy, that we don't know about?
Well, there's a lot that women don't even report because they're afraid of being blamed for the crime on them.
Yeah.
And this is a good example of what they'll face in the judicial system, um, if they do press charges or come forward. I mean, luckily now with the Me Too movement, things are taken much more serious and we're starting to pay attention to victims. But even with the Me Too movement, I have somewhat of a problem with that. And I'll
Mhm.
tell you why, because there's been a lot of times where a victim is blaming somebody and the person's been innocent, and we're just ruining men's lives too quickly. I mean, we have to listen and then investigate.
Yes, of course we do.
Yeah. You can't just hear a story because there's some sick people out there who want to ruin other people's lives and will make false allegations. But it's important that, there's some follow up and investigating before a person's life is impacted.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I've always said this. I don't think, if you're charged with rape, I don't think your name should be put out there.
Well, once it gets charged in the
Yeah.
courts, though, in America, everything's public information.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's like that here. There's been cases where it's, I mean, I'm not saying this is common because it's not, but it's turned out the girls withdrew it. It's been a lie or whatever. But that man still has had to go through the process.
Yes.
And what happens? Nothing. His name is destroyed because
Yeah.
I don't care. That still sticks with you. It does, definitely.
Yes, definitely. And it ruins your reputation.
Yeah.
But yeah, could you imagine, like JD saying about Cindy, just her perfect son, who she viewed as the perfect child, right? He was
Yeah.
always well behaved, polite, he was succeeding in life, had a good job. And then to find out that he's confessed to wiping out his whole family. I mean, I just can't even imagine um, what that does to his parents because they are victims too.
Yeah, I agree they are. And regardless of what we think, the only thing I will say, why they maybe is when they publicly come out and say negative things about Shanann. That's hard
Yeah,
to listen to.
it
I don't
is.
think it's appropriate at all.
And there's always a pattern with the stories based on what time period and who they were speaking to on YouTube,
Yeah.
as far as what's being spread that's completely false. Like, I know we've all heard the CPS rumors. Shanann did not have CPS involved in her life. The DA
No.
even made a statement that there was never a file on them ever. But some YouTubers are still running with that lie and trying to destroy Shanann's reputation. She did nothing wrong in this situation.
No,
And
absolutely not.
I mean, Chris himself admitted he didn't even think there was anything wrong with his marriage until what? He started cheating.
Yeah,
And his mistress made him think that everything was so wrong.
of course. And him being the type of person that he couldn't face.
No, he couldn't.
So, but how you would even get to that stage is I just don't get it, and I'm glad I don't understand it
Yeah. Yeah, be grateful.
because it's two little children. But of course, you can share a poem, Helen. Absolutely. If you want to send it to me, I can read it out if you want. And I think I don't actually know anyone else that has had such a spotlight on their actions for 3.5 years now. It should be over, it should be finished. When's enough enough? Are you there, Dorothy?
Yeah, I'm looking at a letter that the victim of that, assault on the Stanford
Oh,
campus
yes, right.
had written. Yeah. Do you want me to pull it up on the screen? Because it talks about how it affected her life. She
Uh,
she does have some memories. She says she remembers feeling hands touching her skin. Yeah, she was in and out of consciousness.
yeah, she probably was, yeah. So you can
Yeah.
imagine how
All she
she felt.
remembers Yeah, she remembers being with her younger sister. They were at a party, and she said her alcohol tolerance had significantly lowered, and the next thing she remembers, she was on a gurney being wheeled down a hallway. She had dried up blood on her, bandages on her backs of her hands and elbows. So she must have been dragged if she
Yeah.
scraped up like that.
And she is the one that has been traumatized and has to live with that for the rest of her life. And not
Yeah.
even one mention from that man's father. And that again, because he actually, really, when you read that, the ins and outs, because she was drunk and she passed out, she shouldn't have been drunk and she shouldn't have passed out. Then her son wouldn't have been put in that situation.
That's how they felt, yeah.
Yeah, that's
It
it,
made
isn't it,
her.
really?
Yeah. Very,
It,
very sad.
yeah,
And I think this is a good cautionary tale too for our daughters to teach them, that if they're gonna go to a party with a group of girls, that they all leave together and keep an eye out on each other and protect your drinks and, just because who would have thought this he was a freshman at Stanford, that this would happen?
uh, no one, because he
Right.
was probably going to go on to have a great executive job, big riser, great sportsman, go to the Olympics, and it's boo-hoo, look at me.
And Brock's attorneys in court were arguing that she consented.
She consented.
Yep.
Well, I don't know how she could consent, really, because
No, well, you can't be unconscious and consent. And that's a good lesson to teach our boys too,
yeah,
not to engage with a woman who's intoxicated.
yeah, yeah, it is.
You need to respect that and just say, "No, not tonight. Why don't I pick you up for dinner next week and see if that's gonna be happening, but not in your condition," because it can very well, what he did was something completely different. But just to teach our boys that if a girl's has drunk too
Yeah,
much, not to engage because it's
absolutely not.
they don't have the consciousness to consent if a woman's too intoxicated. It's important to protect our boys and our girls.
Of course it is. I think we can talk. I would like to think that, oh, you know, you've two sons,
Yep.
I've two boys, that they wouldn't even, oh, it wouldn't even enter their mind to do that.
Right.
But I've had the chat, and I'm sure you've had your chat, and I would like to think that they wouldn't do that. But hell, if it did happen, I wouldn't be writing a letter like that to a judge, would
No,
you, Dorothy?
absolutely not.
I would be down on my knees pleading. Look, but this is the problem.
But
Pe-
if the father is writing a letter about this, something so serious, maybe there was things in high school where the father just never held him accountable and there was never consequences. and then it escalates, right? If we don't hold our children accountable for bad behavior that maybe he just thought, he could do what he wanted.
Yeah, yeah. And he probably did think that. He was at Stanford, you know, he was top of the class.
And he
But
had a promising swimming
yeah,
career ahead of him. Yeah, very, very sad.
but
But
Helena has sent me a poem,
oh, God, let's read it.
and I'll read it here. Here we go. Did that mean yes? So, because she wore that little black dress, you thought that she said a definite yes. Because she was walking home in the dark, you thought you could rape her in the park.
Mm,
Because she smiled at the Christmas party, and the dress she wore you considered tardy, you thought she wanted you inside her, thought she wanted you to ride her. When the battery died on her phone, was that yes to sex or just a lift home? When she wore that lipstick, a glossy red, did that mean yes, come into my bed? When she froze, as though paralyzed, did that mean yes, when you sodomized?
mm,
When you looked at her face, etched with fear, did that mean yes, despite the tears? When you saw the pain in her eyes, did that mean yes, despite the cries? When she struggled against your grip, did that mean yes, she wanted it? When she said stop, don't, no, did that mean yes, green light, go? When she tried to run towards the door, did that mean yes, she wanted more? Are you proud of yourself? Are you a real man if you take what's not offered and don't give a damn? A moment of pleasure, selfish and stolen, is it worth the cost of a woman left broken? Your selfish wants, your animal lust, your arrogant needs fill me with disgust. Your actions leave her indelibly scarred, her confidence gone, her relationships marred. You felt the need to have control, but in doing, you've stolen her soul. Really, it's because you're sad and pathetic. Your actions to me act like an emetic. You make me sick with your inhumanity, your violence, your cruelty to prop up your vanity. You're not a man at all. You're just dirt on my shoe. That is my honest opinion of you. You thought it beneath you to consider her equal, but do you think you're a good husband material? You're lower than low, a criminal, a beast, a pervert, delinquent, the least of the least, a rapist, an animal despised by real men who know the true value of a woman who consents. She gives herself freely to the one who deserves her, a gift freely given to the one who honours her, the gift that is most valuable thing, which you have degraded, made it into nothing. Shame on you. Helen, that, oh,
that's wonderful.
amazing.
Yeah.
It really is. Thank you. I think that says it all there.
Yeah, and we have to remember, a man who does that to a woman, it's more than just the sex. It's the power and the fact that he is violating that is making him do this.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's being a predator that
Hmm.
turns somebody like Brock on,
And how many Brock Turners is there?
right?
Really? More than we probably want to think about. And Enchanted, you mentioned gut instinct before. And I think we've all had that gut instinct that things aren't right, but you put them to the side.
Mhm.
And maybe we should rely on it more and act on it. Like Shanann said that she didn't feel safe going back to live with him after his comment about the baby.
Yeah, and but then remember Christina is the one that said to her, and she loves Shanann, and she thought highly of Chris. "Oh, it'll be alright, you'll be
Yeah.
fine." Yeah, so I wish that Shanann had told her mother what was going on, because
Oh
her mother
gosh, yeah.
would have kicked in and escorted her back to Colorado. I don't know why one of Chris's parents didn't. If they were so concerned about Chris getting out of the house like they say, why didn't one of them go back with Chris to help him get out of the house?
I know if my son
Right,
was in a relationship, a marriage that was ending, I'm going to tell you, I would be on that plane with him whether he wanted me to be there or not.
right,
Because if I knew Shanann being an Italian fiery temper,
right,
she was pregnant with her third baby, and he was going to tell her that he was having an affair and leaving her. You're right, there was heads going to roll. There's going to be
right.
big showdown. I would have said, I'm coming with you. I'll stay in a hotel, but I'll be there.
Well, and then even the fact I don't know when that letter was really written, o only
Yeah,
God knows when, but let's say it was written while he was in Colorado. What, your red flags didn't and your alarm bells didn't go off?
I know.
You should go to Colorado with your son because I think if Sandy and Frank were in their position, they would have escorted her home.
Yeah,
So there were red flags,
of course.
and yeah,
And I agree enchanted with what you're saying. I totally agree that she had that feeling and she didn't feel safe. And that is a big thing to admit that you don't feel safe with your husband.
and we should always go on our instincts. I wish
Oh my
she
God.
listened to her instinct.
And it was because of the baby, him
Yeah,
not wanting that baby. And there was something, when you have do you ever get a bad feeling, Dorothy? And it's like you put it to the back of your mind
yeah,
and you think, no, that can't be. And as Enchanted said, and I agree too, but because of her financial situation
yep.
and the
Health
image
insurance, everything.
that she had to keep up with that MLM, she ignored her. She ignored her feelings and thought, right, I'm going to just go home
Try
and
to
I so wish, and I know we're saying this, but if her mom or her dad knew,
it
they
would
would
have
have
been
been
different.
there with them. Yeah, of course it would.
But now to, like, actually blame Shanann
I
for
know.
things she loved him so, so much, and she just wanted her marriage to work,
Yeah,
but she just wouldn't accept until that Saturday night that an affair was even on the table. Until he used that credit card, she still wasn't admitting that he could possibly be seeing somebody else, and I think if she knew everything, it would have been very different, very different. Unfortunately, I mean, imagine how the Ruzeks feel. Not only did they lose the girls and Shanann, but they actually loved Chris like a son. So for somebody
you're
they
right.
loved
Yeah,
very much to do this, I mean, I just can't even imagine the layers of hurt and betrayal they feel.
don't worry about insulting someone or looking foolish. Always listen to that gut instinct.
Yeah, yeah,
God gave you for protection. Run, avoid, or leave. And Helen said that Nikki Atkinson knew.
yeah.
That she knew that Shanann wasn't safe.
Hey, can I see those things?
I think there's
Sorry,
so much pressure
I'm gonna mute
on that
myself for
family.
a second.
No, that's fine. I think there's so much pressure on that family that we can all look back. I mean, let's look at our own digital footprint. God forbid if something happened to any one of us and they went back and looked at all our comments on YouTube, Facebook. I'm not on Facebook, but whatever it be. you would be pulled apart, but for 3.5 years. And then to have certain channels going over it and over and over it. When does it stop? And I think it's reached just down to the bottom of the barrel now. And I always thought that Minsa was bad. But he's doing exactly the same thing.
Oh, I feel like he's mimicking her now. He's probably listening
Yeah.
to her shows and repeating those hateful lies. And I'm sorry, but she got a lot of her disdain for Shanann from Cindy, just
Yeah.
like Critical K did. And I don't know why she goes from YouTuber to YouTuber speaking so hateful about Shanann. She's dead.
Yeah.
It's not going to change anything. Isn't it time to heal and move on and grieve?
But I mean, Dorothy, it was only 11 months ago they were going to hire a
Right.
lawyer until they realised that wasn't going to work out.
No.
And they probably would be left with not even the clothes they stood up in.
Well, they did give money to the attorney and they ended up getting reimbursed. I do know that to be true.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because there was nothing they could do.
No, of course not.
He signed away any
Yeah.
possibility of any appeal. For
Yeah.
35C to be successful, his constitutional rights would have needed to be been violated extremely, and they weren't.
But I will say, for people that watch that and call that entertainment,
Oh my God.
because it is, they're classing this as entertainment.
That's some sick shit,
Woman,
right?
woman in that channel, and then you can read the comments. Just think, that could be your daughter,
Right.
your sister, or it could even be you. And it's absolutely disgraceful.
I mean, it's 3.5 years later now, and
Yeah.
he just will not stop talking about this case, and he thinks that the discovery is evidence. It's not evidence. There is no evidence because it never went to trial. The discovery is just what they gathered early on because he was looking to plead guilty as early as September. So that was just the preliminary interviews and phone records. They would have done so much more work if it went to trial. That is not evidence.
No, it's not. They call it the book of evidence. Everywhere's different. Every country's different. And that's just a very small part. We know that it takes years for anything to go to trial. And yes, Enchanted, I know what you're saying about the MLMs. Some people do very well out of them. But
1% of people can actually make money, and Shanann was one of the 1%. She had a knack for it. But most people, it causes financial ruin, divorces. I mean, it really can ruin a person's life because they'll keep investing money in it thinking it's going to turn around. I'll start getting some people signed on. I'll create a downline, and it doesn't happen. But Shanann was successful. She had a whole team of people underneath her.
She did.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have to say I have my doubts.
Well, because
she made as much money.
Well, yeah. Well, let me just say, when we see that she made, they said 60,000.
Yeah.
They're not taking into account that every trip, every prize, even her car is added on as income to her W-9 or whatever.
Yeah.
It's all taxable income. So that $800 a month gets added onto her W-9. So that right there, that's almost 10,000 the year. So take 10 from that.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
every trip they took is also taxable income. So she didn't actually make that money. She actually went on those trips. So, I mean, she made a lot less than people actually think, plus the products she had to buy in order to maintain her level, right, to qualify
Yeah,
for these gifts. So she was holding a lot of product. MLMs are predatory.
yeah, they are. I agree, they are.
Yeah.
And there's actually a very good documentary, Enchanted, if you've maybe watched it. And it's about LuLaRoe. Is it LuLaRoe?
Yes.
The
Such a
leggings, them
yeah.
awful leggings. And I think it's on Vice. And it was
Yeah.
really, really good. People that they had interviewed, and they covered a couple of ladies, and they spent themselves broke, Dorothy.
Yeah, they did.
They definitely did. And they were left with all this stock and couldn't get rid of it.
And they oversaturated the market with, people selling the leggings. So in a town where one person was selling and then signing people up to sell, that can be very successful. But
Yeah,
once you put in one town, what, 20, 30 salespeople, women, you're oversaturating the market.
yeah.
So now, you know, it's not possible to make any more money because you have
And
too many salespeople.
of course. And you've got all this stock and underlines. Yes, I think there's some people can maybe make it work. Um, would I advise anyone to do it? No.
You gotta get in very early on in order for it to work for you. You have to be one of the up at the very top of the pyramid, and then everybody underneath, they're losing a lot of money.
But Dorothy, I think I checked out how much one of those, I don't know whether it was Lavelle or whatever it was, it's hundreds of dollars a month.
Yes,
Who can afford that?
I couldn't.
For what?
And
Vitamins?
well, and
Really?
then they're not FDA approved either. That's why they're being sold through the MLM, business model because they're not FDA approved vitamins. God even knows if they would pass FDA to end up in a GNC or something like that.
Any bag of cigarettes in?
Yeah.
Where else?
And I, regardless of whether she earned money or not, it was an MLM. I think a lot of people, this actually brought to light about the MLMs. I wasn't aware of LMM or LMM, LLMs prior to this. This highlighted it to me what the hell they were. We don't have that. Well, we do maybe in Ireland, but I wasn't aware of it. And definitely there's something to say, stay away, stay away.
I
And
would never join an MLM,
no,
never. I would rather work minimum wage and get a paycheck
yeah,
and just be done with it, because the amount of hours you have to actually put into it and energy, I mean, hourly, it doesn't make sense. You're not even really making that much money at
no,
all.
you're not.
And then you have to always ask people to become a salesperson underneath you. I just wouldn't feel comfortable asking everybody I meet, "Oh, would you like to be in my downline?" I don't know. It's just not for me.
You probably would be quite good at it, Dorothy, because you've got the gift of the gab.
Yeah, but I
So had
wouldn't pay for
Shannon.
that.
Shannon,
Yeah, but it
she,
takes a lot of time.
yes. And I think people don't understand this. The amount of time and hours that that woman put in, it was a lot.
Yeah.
And she worked hard. She did work hard. And really, going forward, we've went through them all this. What is the point of bringing this all up again? It doesn't change the fact that her husband was having an affair, wanted a new life, a new start,
Right.
and he murdered them all. He
Right.
murdered,
The MLM had nothing to do with it, really.
no, he murdered his wife, his son, and his two little girls.
Yeah.
And I think it's time that the victim blaming, it has to stop somewhere. Where does it stop? Or does it take it to go, to a court? I don't know. but I think we've all got to play a part in it. Um, Not us, but people that sub and people that watch that for entertainment. Really?
I mean, even the Peterson case, I don't think I've ever heard anybody dissect Lacey's life and place any
No,
blame on her.
no. And
Maybe it's because there was so much
I
out
think,
there
yeah,
as far as Facebook videos, and I mean, there was a lot of videos and the police cam videos, and then the discovery dump to the internet. I mean, people were just on a feeding frenzy. I mean, I was part of it when in 2018 into 19,
yeah,
watching everything I could find
yeah.
about what had happened.
I was a bit obsessed as well. Not with now that certain detective. I certainly wasn't, but um, I did follow a lot of the channels. But then that was it.
Right. Like, when do you stop? I mean, when have you got enough?
Yeah, and I certainly never ever said a negative thing about the murder victim.
No.
Absolutely not. Why would you? And
And where I'm sitting, she looked like a great mother.
she was a great
Her
mother.
house was impeccable,
Absolutely.
her kids
Yep,
looked beautiful. She had them in a very good school, so they had opportunities. I thought she was doing an amazing job.
she was.
Um, so I don't understand why people are so critical of her. I
I
s
think I know it's awful, and I think look at their. If it's very easy to judge, but let's look at our own lives, or
I
even
don't do a tenth of what she did in any given day. Honest to God, I look like a lazy slob compared to Shanann. I mean, her house was spotless. I'm not a slob, but I'm
yeah,
certainly not the most domestic person on the planet either. Um, she was just really, really good at what she did. She set goals for herself, very ambitious,
yeah,
and when she woke up, she conquered her days,
she
even
did.
through health issues.
Hmm. And
So,
again, like when I wake up in the morning, I wouldn't have the same enthusiasm that she ever had. And we have to remember that the Facebook videos is only a very, very small part of her day.
right, what and she's selling a product. They're
Yes,
instructed to be
yeah,
super bubbly, show your car, show you going places,
yes.
show your best life. It's not really her.
No, I mean, if she came on and said, "Oh, I've had a terrible day with the kids. It's been awful.
Right.
Oh, they were
Oh,
up
they would
last
have
night."
tore that up.
I
They
mean,
would have, like, basically labeled her an abuser to some sort, and, like, how many days where I'm like, "Oh my god, Jerry just drove me crazy today."
yeah.
And
But
she never complained.
she was a good mother, and it's like any other that we were talking about. The rape victim, the survivor, um, the bio mother that's daughter was killed in foster
Right,
care.
right.
Really, is that is her compassion completely gone now? No empathy.
Yeah, it appears that way, huh? I mean, I just don't understand, when is he gonna stop? Why doesn't he even understand that he's been stuck at the subscriber count for this long,
Yeah,
where because he won't get off this case, that if he had just moved on to other cases and moved along with his channel, like other channels have done for a long time now,
yeah.
like, look at Unmasked. She's up to 120,000 because she's
Wow.
not stuck on the watch.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Plunger's
yeah,
doing wonderful.
yeah.
They cover other cases, and these are the same channels that started basically when he started and other channels started with the What's case. We all watch those channels, but he just will not move on. For some strange I get a feeling like it's more he wants to spite people, and it's personal now for him.
Do you think so?
I do. I do. He's
Because it
very
is
calculated.
it's a big, big flip.
Right.
And JD, You're right. No matter what job you have, no matter what money you make, no matter how many people you have gained in your online job, you were doing your job, Shanann, to
Right.
support your family.
And
Yeah,
really wrap your mind around that. Like, it's literally 1% of MLM people are successful. That's how good she was. She was
yeah,
that 1%.
yeah,
So she was very successful at an MLM where other people cannot be. So maybe I wouldn't do an MLM, but for her, it was working. She was driving a Lexus.
yeah,
She was getting to go on trips. They made money. They were able to put the girls into a good school. Financially, they were drowning a little bit, yes.
yes,
But,
they were. Yeah.
all young couples do
But
that when they have
just,
young kids.
yeah, they weren't any different
Then other
than
right.
any other. There's millions of couples all over the world in that same situation. Let's be honest, there is.
Yeah,
Look how many businesses fail or people lose their jobs, they lose their homes, um, bad, bad with money.
yeah.
You know, are we forgetting all that? And you're right, Enchanted. That's the part I was always interested in to see what really was ticking in that brain. But then I think I've realised he's very, very calculating person, and I believe he's played a part all his life. He didn't know how to act in situations.
Nope, he didn't. Even with Shanann and Cindy's
Yeah,
issues of back and forth, he always could have been the one who stopped that if he had taken control of it. He's the husband and the son. He could have squashed that if he would have just taken a stance.
yeah. And I don't know,
I mean,
but
they were even talking about Nutgate
yeah,
and then showing peanut butter. It was tree nuts, and peanut butter is different than a tree nut. But that's how ignorant that non-detective is. He doesn't even know what he's talking about half the time. And it was only Cece, wasn't it, that was allergic to the nuts?
I believe it was.
Yeah, it wasn't both of them. But he doesn't know these things because he doesn't bother to really look into anything. He's just gonna say whatever is sensational in order to have a crowd in there, right?
Yeah,
So, like, "Look, she actually had Skippy." Yeah, but that's a
I
peanut,
know,
that's not a
I know.
tree nut.
Yeah,
It's so weird, that people actually sit there and find that entertaining. Here we are 3.5 years later. There's so many other cases to talk about.
yeah. And I think, let's be honest, we've we've went through the MLM for 3.5 years. We've went through um, allergies. We've
Right,
went through illnesses. Absolutely everything has been nitpicked to the point I think I know more about their life and what they had for breakfast and dinner than I do about my own family.
right.
But it still doesn't change one thing what happened
He
that night. What
he right.
he did.
I mean, they were even insinuating that Shanann only fed them pizza and
Oh my
corn
gosh.
pods, like, that's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah,
She was a wonderful cook.
yeah.
She
And he
cooked
said that.
meals.
He said that.
Yeah.
Like, what did you feed your children then?
Well, that was what
Really?
first fed them the last night was the
Yeah,
leftover pizza. Shanann wasn't even home, so that's not Shanann didn't feed them leftover cold pizza, Chris did.
yeah,
But he'll misrepresent it, um, to suit whatever narrative he wants to keep going with, to have more content. He'll always do this. I wish somebody would finally put an end to his behavior online because it's quite abusive. It's not honest, and he's taken advantage of people in his channel.
yes, he is. For money to get them into Patreon.
Right. Hey, Christy love.
Christy, just now we're going to change the topic here, and it's the murder
Yeah,
case
I
news?
always thought the father was responsible, Christy. I'm glad they have evidence now.
Wow.
Yeah, I always thought he was the one that did it. Who else would go on that property and kill his son and wife? Right, Christy?
And I know Sagacious is really into that case. I've listened to the podcast and I thought, right, yep, he's definitely. And again, there was Sagacious. Was it his Alex murder? How do you pronounce that, Dorothy?
Murdoch.
Murdoch?
Murdoch?
Murdoch? Murdoch.
Murdoch.
I'll say Murdoch.
Yeah.
Alex Murdoch's son was drunk and driving a boat, and a young girl fell off and drowned.
Yeah.
And because he had, old school into the DA's office, his son wasn't prosecuted. Nobody got
Well, it was
charged.
still open.
Yeah. And again, nothing about the victim. There's another example. Isn't that right, Sagacious? The young girl killed. No one got
Yes, he fell off
charged.
he hit the bridge on the underpass pillars of a bridge, and
Oh,
she went flying. Well, they didn't have the lights on the boat weren't working. They were using a flashlight. They were extremely intoxicated. They were arguing. There's even question on who was actually in control of the boat because there's conflicting statements. It's just a big shit show. And I think the father didn't want to deal with any of the repercussions from that because the father owned the boat.
yes.
Where's the
And
other son? The other son's still alive, Sagacious.
yes, I believe he is.
Yeah.
Hi, Country Joe.
I
Welcome.
can see.
So he hired someone to kill him. Is that right, Dorothy?
No, I think he killed his wife and
No, he did, yes.
yeah.
But
Oh, with the
he got shot
pullover
in
on
the
the
head.
side. Are you talking about the side of the road when
Yes.
I think he did
Alex.
that to himself.
Oh, he did that himself.
I think so, yeah. And he tried to
Oh,
say he was a victim of a drive-by shooting? Is that what he's trying to say? I mean, the whole thing is just ludicrous.
absolutely. Well, he's going to be in jail for the rest of his
Well, I hope
life.
so, but you never
So,
know. He's got a lot of money and a lot of pull in that community.
and also, Christy, that's right.
Oh, he hired his drug dealer. Oh, okay.
Oh, that's right. There was also the death of the housekeeper.
Oh, that's right. And that gay young boy
Yes,
from the road. I mean, I think
yes.
that's been reopened too. There's a lot going on with that family.
Wow. Now that is going to be a big trial.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's not going to be brought to trial for the housekeeper, all that there. But so he hired his drug dealer to kill him, and the drug dealer didn't do it right.
Well, I don't know if he hired him to kill him to make it look like he was
Ah,
a
right. I
victim.
wondered.
Yeah. I don't think he wanted the dude to kill him. Because if
All
he
right, I
didn't,
wondered.
why wouldn't he just kill himself? You know
Oh
what I
no,
mean?
that's true. Yeah, no, you're right. Of course, because then obviously it would look like this other person killed his wife and son.
Maybe, yeah, like that they came to finish off the family, right? Yeah. Maybe that's what he was trying to perpetrate. That somehow that's
My
linked to what
gosh.
happened to his wife and son. But I always thought that had to be him. I don't even think they were supposed to be at that property that morning, were they? Like that was unusual. I don't know. That whole thing is just a mess.
I mean,
There's a
that is
there's a guy who covers that case. He's probably in his late 20s or 30s, and he really did a deep dive. It's excellent, the coverage that he did on it. I just can't think of the channel's name. I watched, the first couple episodes. I think it's got, like, 4 or 5 parts to it.
yes, replay to make him look like a victim, of course.
Yeah.
But was it the insurance money the reason he killed his son and his wife?
I think he probably wanted out of his marriage, and the son had done that boat accident, and
Right.
he just figured let me just get rid of these two.
as you do.
Start, yeah, as men
Jesus.
usually do when they want to fresh start. They take out their families, but I don't know why he would leave the other son. Maybe
Yeah,
the other son was the golden child. I don't know. But those boys were known to be quite irresponsible and
yeah.
reckless and always getting away with whatever they did. They weren't held accountable for anything.
Yes, it's basically it's all to do with drugs and money. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Well, Jura, I've been on here for an hour and a half.
You have, and thank you very
You have
much.
too.
I think we covered a lot,
We did.
and for my first live, I think we done all right.
I think it was very good, and it was just to break Jura in and having a conversation, and I think that it went pretty smooth.
Yeah.
And I know that Jura in the future, tell us about what the plans are for the channel and exactly how you're going to execute it.
Well, I feel I can commit to 2 true crime lives a month. I don't want to promise too much because in case I can't come through, it will be Irish crime, um, at home or maybe away. There is a couple of American cases where Irish people have sadly been murdered, and a few Australian ones. And then my coffee time, that's what I've called my channel, Irish crime and coffee time. It'll be just like chats, what's happening around the tubes every once in a while,
I
if
think the
anything comes
name
up.
the name is very catchy and easy to remember. So bravo on a good name.
Well, actually, it was something John had said, about crime and coffee, and I picked up on it and I thought, right, that's it. Because we had went through a few names and nothing really stuck. You didn't like my first name, and you were right, Dorothy.
Well, I just wanted your channel name to reflect what you're going to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not, look, to be quite honest, if I got 50 subs, I would be delighted. And if a few people, and it's been a lovely chat tonight, really loved being able to interact and have a chat with you. And as I say, hopefully, well, no, it will be next week. I plan to do the missing and murdered of case of Lisa Dorian.
Oh, I can't wait.
And I hope that you'll all be there. There will be clips and videos that I've put together. I have to be honest, it's such time. I admire these creators that can come on and put out content for days. I'm not just that quick.
Well, just go at your own pace. There's no rush.
Yeah. And thank you for everybody that's subbed and that's put out the community posts, replay, Country Joe. I do talk a wee bit slower, so I'm maybe going to fasten it up a wee bit. I think it's because I'm scared people don't understand me, Dorothy. You know what I mean?
Sometimes I don't. I'm like, Jura, would you just say your accent?
Shouts at me. But anyway, Dorothy, thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. I'm always here for you. I love you, girl.
Okay, no problem. And what about your channel?
Oh, I'm probably going to come back tomorrow, and I have something I want to introduce to the channel that I want to talk about. It's really juicy and salacious,
Oh,
and it
oh,
involves some celebrities. So I'm so excited
oh.
because I've been fascinated. And did you go look into it?
I haven't had time yet, but
I don't know if you guys have heard of the TV show on the OWN network, Sweetie Pies. And right now, the son who promoted the show to OWN network, who it was partners with the mother in the restaurants, basically, he's in prison or in jail. They're about to start a trial in February for a murder for hire. He had his older brother's only son murdered, and I want to talk about it. I just have been into the whole case since the arrest in August of 2020. So now the case is coming up to the court proceedings, and it's so juicy what actually went down. So I want to talk about that.
And there's a lot of players in it. And I
Yes.
think because of, who the grandmother is. She was a backing singer for
Oh, she was
Tina.
an Ikeette. Yep.
Yeah,
An original Ikeette. So she was the backup singer for Ike and Tina Turner.
I can take. Yeah, she
Yeah.
was.
So she had celebrity on her own and started these restaurants in St. Louis.
And
So yeah,
again,
home is Oprah. Yep, it's Oprah's network.
yeah. And Dorothy, we have missed you. It seems that you haven't been on in ages.
Well, I've been going through it with my older son. He's driving me fucking crazy. But he's back now.
He is.
Yeah. I went and picked him up today. So hopefully things go a little smoother. We'll see. Well, the girlfriend's not here. So
Oh,
yeah. Oh, what a nightmare.
as you say, Dorothy, he's an asshole, but he's your
Yeah.
asshole.
Yeah, he is.
And that's the truth. So, good night, everyone. And thank you all for coming in. I really do appreciate it. And remember, be kind and stay safe. And good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Night, night.
Good night, Juror. Love you.